In working with people to understand what they're dealing with on a inner level, when dealing with issues where you're stuck, or issues where you're dealing with a repetitive pattern, or issues that are an illness or a stuck point of some sort, or even it being at a crossroads within one's life, there's often a spiritual basis for what exactly is transpiring. So the spiritual diagnosis is really important in order to get a sense of what's going on behind the curtain or behind the scenes on different levels in order to effectively address the stuck point, the problem, the illness, whatever that the person is dealing with. So I have found two effective methods for doing spiritual diagnosis. One method of doing spiritual diagnosis is with the tarot cards, because the tarot were originally developed to sort of tap into subliminal or subconscious information. And what happens in dealing with the tarot and also dealing with what I call profiling, which is a more sophisticated version, is where the subconscious is being used as a conduit to get to the deeper levels of consciousness in which we have access to much more information than is usually available consciously. In other words, the inner mind knows a great deal more about what's going on in our lives than our conscious mind does. And in order to access its information, we have to get to it subconsciously. So one form of doing that is either through the tarot or through a profiling. Both of them sort of operate on the exact same premise, that in order to effectively solve an equation, one has to know what the entire equation is. And soliciting that information is only going to come from contact with the subconscious. So it can be done one of two ways. It can be done either through a tarot reading, which deals with a specific question. I have an issue or a question that needs to be addressed or understood. The tarot taps the subconscious information and lays it out in a structural pattern that Kabbalistically could be read and interpreted. The profile does much the same thing, except it's more extensive in that I'm eliciting from the person in the profile itself tasks that they're to perform, and then the results of the tasks can be correlated within the tree of life, the basic paradigm of the Kabbalah, which will then yield a number of levels of information about what's going on with that person on a practical level, what's going on behind it on the emotional level, what's going on behind that on the psychic or psychological level, and what's going on ultimately at the root level, at the spirit. So I find that spiritual diagnosis is critically important in dealing with spiritual therapy or spiritual healing, because it provides all of the necessary information or the necessary data that gives us a picture of what's going on at all levels, and therefore points the direction in what needs to be done on a practical level to address any or all of those levels in terms of psychological understanding and healing.